So, I came across a couple of videos with some outlandish things being said about 80s, 90s, and 2000s basketball. Just need to make sure I heard it correctly by reacting to Mind of the Game, Tyrese Haliburton, and LeBron. I'm sure I made a mistake, but let's see if I did. Let's get into it.
Haliburton, man, welcome to the show. I'm excited to be a part of it, but I told him I'm only doing it if I get to ask one certain question to Braun. Obviously, you evolved as a player. Obviously, as overrated as you are, as everyone would like to put, which is ridiculous. It's so funny you bring up that in-season tournament game because if we win that game, do we ever trade for Pascal? I don't know. One of your greatest assets that no one wants to coach it is the jump pass. I jump to make a read, but I feel like I always jump with a plan more times than not. You can't tell me that Jokic is not all NBA. Now, and all of a sudden, because he's missed 30 games, you can't tell me he's not. We can't get a hold of him. We can't find him. So, to our favorite New York Knicks fan, y'all favorite player, we decided to bring on, Tyrese Haliburton, man. Welcome to the show, bro. We're happy to have you host these 2 episodes with us. Man, you and Steve talking hoop. I'm excited to be a part of it. I wanted to bring up just about how you've been playing lately. It's been ridiculous to see at your big age, the way you've been hooping, averaging 23, 6, and 7 this year. 31 players in history have played after their 40th birthday, and only 10 have played over 1,000 minutes. And only 5 have averaged over 10. That is insane. You 24/7/7 since you turned 40. Michael Jordan averaged 22. Karl Malone 13.
Who cares?
So I just wanted to ask, how are you able to still play at this level at this age? Bro, it's very fascinating to me, and it's kind of weird too at times. It's times where I wake up on game days and I'll be like, I don't got it, man. I don't have the energy. I'm tired. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to work up. Just the that you need to get through a 48-minute game or however long you're on the floor. So. It took a lot out of me, obviously, getting ready for the season, obviously, as well documented, my injury to start the season and missing the first, missing the preseason, missing training camp, missing the first 14 games of the season and, just trying to get my back and my body back, according. So, that was tough, seeing if it was going to be able to respond. And I don't know, man, to be playing at the level I'm playing at, just turned 41, a couple weeks, 2 weeks plus, ago, and going out there and playing and feeling good. I played in 2 back-to-backs this past week, played 5 and 7 nights, and I didn't know if I was going to get through them, and I came out of 5 and 7, 6 and 9, feeling really good. And it's, I don't know, man. I don't even know how I'm doing it. So I'm just trying to squeeze as much juice out of the lemon, out of the orange, out of whatever that's left, as much as I can, and just continue to go out and play the game that I love, man. Nah, it's crazy because even I'm 25. I have days on those back-to-backs where I'm just like, oh yeah, my God, especially the travel back-to-backs. We play. Yeah. You have to fly, land, and then you have to, and then no shoot around. You're just kind of right. I got to get through this day. So I can't imagine.
These players are so entitled, man. I just cannot sit down and just listen. So entitled. I'm just thinking back to how things were before. These players barely had quality basketball sneakers running around on those floors. I know how much your back hurts running around on certain type of floors with bad cushioning under your feet. Those players were playing under those conditions, getting paid less, getting more back-to-backs. Some of them playing 70 to 80 games per season. And these guys are talking about... Anyways. I think about that all the time as I get older, how things are going to change. And I'm curious for you, as you've gotten older, when did that first kick in where the back-to-backs, it was kind of like a drag, the first time you noticed, this is tough. I don't, obviously, throughout your career, like you just said, depending on the schedule, depending on if you're flying from one, time zone to the next time zone, depending on what time you get back home or get to the next city, will have some factors on how you feel that next morning. But I would say probably over the last 3 years, 3-4 years, it's just it didn't matter if I was coming home. It didn't matter if we was going to a different city. It didn't matter the time zone. Just, the back-to-backs they wear on you just because of the travel. All the minutes I've played, all the cities I've continued to go to, each and every year. And I think one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot as well, too, is all the different beds that we have to sleep in. Bro, that's the worst thing. Yeah, that's. Can you imagine this, guys? Can you imagine?
Some people don't have beds to sleep on, and these entitled men are complaining about the types of beds they're sleeping on while getting paid millions of dollars per year, getting paid to play a fascinating sport. That's such a drag. Not even training camp. You're playing in the game that you claim you love so much. They're complaining about it. Can you imagine Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, I'll put him in there, Will Chamberlain, any of them speaking this way? These dudes are soft. Soft. As someone watching, the audience, you pay money, you go there to see your favorite player play, they'll miss the game because they can't play back-to-backs. Can't make this up. And people hear me say that and say, I'm a LeBron hater. All right.
Hard on your body, different pillows, different beds, different, that is taxing on your body too. So, just trying to find some type of pattern, some type of comfort, when you're going from different cities, different time zones, coming back to your own bed, so, I would say over like the last 3 years, Reese, man, just, trying to figure it out, how can I get my body acclimated? How can I get my body recovered? How can I get my body it's not going to get to 100. You're not going to get like a full gas tank, on those back-to-backs, but you can try to get as close to 100 as possible to go out there and perform. And you hope that on that back-to-back, maybe some shit talking gets started early in the game that'll get you going too.
Get me going.
Yeah, I need something to get me going. Maybe one of the ref look at me crazy. Maybe it's a fan in the stands, say something crazy to you. That'll also get you going too.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm still in that same boat. I think like in that same breath, what I always wonder for you, and especially for I always think about for myself as I get older, how is my game going to adjust once I start to slow down? Because obviously we play so fast. I'm a guy who gets the ball. I want to run. And I think back to like my early days watching basketball, like you in Cleveland and Miami, and the pace that you're playing at to where now, like there's obviously been an adjustment for you. Yeah. How have you went about that as you've gotten older, adjusting your play style to be less predicated on that speed and more methodical and using your physicality and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think for me it's just about like having like growth mindset. Understand.
The game got worse, guys. There is no growth in the game. The game got easier. Every single night I'm looking at scores, it's like in the 130s now, the 120s. The game got easier. So averaging 23 points now is equivalent to averaging 13 points 10 years ago. 13 points even 7 years ago. The game got easier. So all these stats these people have, not just him, all of them, it's irrelevant. The game's easy. We got random guys off the bench scoring 40 points, 50 points. It's happening now every other week. The game got easier. Offensive-wise, the players are more talented, but if you're more talented with less defense, there'll be more scoring. Duh. But people don't want to think about that.
Understanding like the game of basketball evolves and the game of basketball changes, and you have to be able to see the table turn. And you have to be able to evolve with it if you want to stay abreast of what's going on with the game. So, like you said, my first 7 years in Cleveland, them first few years, the game was, methodical. It was slow. It was slower pace. It was a lot of, two bigs, sitting in the paint. So it'd be 4 total sitting in the paint out of the 10 guys on the court. And then as the 2000s kind of got more to like the 2008, 9, then you kind of had like the Phoenix Suns. You had the Spurs who started to open up the game, and then we started to open up the game in Cleveland with, our backcourt and the way we used to run and pick up the pace. And then I moved to Miami as well, and then we started to pick up the pace. We started to play more of a widespread offense where we had Chris Bosh, play a lot at the 5 with Shane Battier and myself and D-Wade and Chalmers or Ray Allen or whatever, So, and now, obviously, you playing in Indiana and seeing how the pace itself today has completely changed. You have to be able to kind of adjust with the time while you're getting older, and how can you still be effective, with the game changing, and so for me, it was like, okay, how can I still be effective, off the ball, my use.
This is all a lie, man. The reason I know it's a lie, because I watch the games. The only way he adjusts is is if he is the offense. It's if he has the ball in his hands most of the time. It may have been different the past 2 years with Luka there. Slightly. But that is the way you are adjusting. Everybody else around you has to adjust. Everybody else around you has to become like Chris Bosh, go out to the wing and shoot threes. Everybody step out and become 3-point shooters, or be somebody to run pick and roll with him. If you watch, that's what you see. There is no sets. He's the point guard and everybody around him is the shooter. Guys, watch the games. Don't listen to these guys. Watch and see what happens. It sounds great, but it's not what is happening when we watch the games.
Usage rate is down a lot more now today than it was in the past as far as just handling the ball. So how can I still be effective on the court? Being able to slash from, 45 or, setting pick and rolls and trying to get behind the defense. And now I know what's really good with my game is once I get the 4-on-3, I know how to make those plays. If you put 2 on the ball, if, AR get doubled, for pick and roll, or if Luka gets doubled off a pick and roll, I know how to master the game that way. Started to define my low post game, understand I'm a threat there. I'm closer to the back.
You're not a low post player. You're a top of the key pick and roll or driving kick. That's who you are. He doesn't know. He shoots a lot of threes. He does some ISOs, pick and roll, driving kick. Low post. We saw him do low post in Miami. That second year after the loss to Dallas. That's the first version of LeBron I saw. Man, this guy could be great if he keeps playing like this. But ever since, we've not seen that version. No. Stop lying to people. Stop.
So how can I draw a double team? So I think the most important reason that as you continue to get older, in your body, you listen to your body. How can you still be effective on the court, but also just having a growth mindset to know that, listen, it's 2026 right now, which sounds crazy to me. I came in 03, but the game in 2029 could look different than right now. So you have to have that type of growth mindset. And, it's funny. It's a great segue to, your question of, our game is different. Obviously, they wanted to implement that rule in because of, load management, I guess, late season guys not
Here we
playing
go.
or, back-to-backs, a lot of the big guys wasn't playing. But, sometimes guys are not able to play. The guys are literally not able to play. It's not like we're, shitting on, national televised games or, whatever the case may be. But, I'm looking at this list right now. We got one of our biggest names, Nikola Jokic. We got Giannis. We got Wembanyama. We got, Steph that missed games, Kawhi that missed games, Sangoon, obviously AR, my teammate. Jalen Williams is out again. J-Dub is out again. How do you think that's going to, impact, going into, the future? You got guys going to miss all NBA nods because...
Yeah, they should. Because you shouldn't be awarded if you're not present. You get promotions, you get recognition if you're available. It's funny, LeBron fans specifically, will belittle and make fun of Anthony Davis for not being available. Yet, in the same light, they want to vote him as MVP when he didn't even play half the season. Make it make sense. You need to be there in order to get awards. They're giving awards to players that aren't there isn't fair. It isn't fair to also the people that invest money to come see their favorite player play. And another question should be, why are all these guys getting hurt so often? What are they doing as far as nutrition, training, recovery? Because when you hear stories like, oh, the players go to a bar after the game or they go have fun, James Harden, you can see why they get hurt often. I'm not saying players before didn't party and all that stuff, but you got to ask the question on what these guys are doing to take care of themselves. Because if the game is more physical back then and players are playing more, how come now with more resources, more access to information, people are getting hurt more often? That should be a question. The game is faster paced, okay, but missing half the season for some, that's crazy. That's crazy. And that also explains why these guys can play 20 years, 23 years. Because they're on the court, they're not playing defense, they're not putting effort on both sides of the floor, and they're load managing. Of course, they're going to be able to prolong their career, keep their numbers. Because let's face it, if you're feeling 70% and you play, it may hurt your numbers. That is something these players now don't get. If they feel any ounce of resistance, they'll sit off so it doesn't hurt their stats. Yeah.
Because of that, when you can't tell me that Jokic is not all NBA now all of a sudden because he's missed 30 games. You can't tell me he's not first team all NBA. This guy's averaging 29, 13, and 14.
See,
like that.
see, stats. That's all people care about now. Stats. You can impact a game without stats. You can. you can impact a game without stats. Because nowadays, everybody's stats is amazing. Because it's overinflated. You have players off the bench coming in, scoring 30, 40, 50 points on a weekly basis. It's not because they're better. The game is inflated.
How long do we go with this, and how is it going to affect, not only today's conversation, but also like individual guys' legacies? Like, it's a topic of conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, bro, is the legacy talk. I think that's the most important. And I think when this was first implemented, I get the idea. We want more guys to play. And I was known as one of the first guys to say I hated it because the year the 65-game rule was implemented was my contract year. I had to play 65 games to make All-NBA to be eligible for...
That is a low standard. 65? You get to miss 17 games? These guys are just so entitled. It must be a blessing being paid this much and you get to miss 20% of the time. Hypothetically speaking. No other job will allow that. You get certain time off you can take off, yes. But if you're scheduled to work and you're paid to work, you show up. Obviously, there's going to be some times you miss, but again, they're complaining about getting paid millions to show up to play the sport they love. That's crazy. That's crazy. How about decreasing the minutes you play on the court, maybe? No, they don't want to hurt their stats, though.
For the Supermax. And I said that I didn't like it at the time, and I still feel that way.
I definitely don't like it.
Yeah, I talked with Commissioner Silver, and we talked about how from a financial standpoint, it can only hurt so many people in that year. Guys who are
Silver, yeah.
Like me at that time, it was me and LaMelo at that time that were trying to get that Supermax. But I think that's the biggest point is legacy talk, because what I think about is in 20, 30 years when I'm not playing, and I'm hearing my kids argue about they want to compare eras or something, and they're going over the list of accolades, and they're telling me right now that this guy might have only made All-NBA so many times, but he was ineligible, and they don't know that, and that could skew it in that way.
Oh, shut up! You guys are a bunch of entitled man-children. Goodness. These guys, there's no passion to want to be better, to win, to try to prove doubters wrong. There's always a sense of you should give it to me without me earning it. There's also a sense of entitlement. That's what you see. Players now are just so privileged, man. Imagine MJ talking like this, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. They were just happy to play and get paid whatever. These guys are complaining about playing.
Which I don't necessarily appreciate in any way, but I think it's something that will be adjusted. I think a big reason for that is Wemby. I think for him to not be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year when there's a very good chance that he could win.
It doesn't matter about your stats. You have to play. You cannot play half the games, have great stats, and no. It's not fair to the rest of the league, to the players that are more available. Availability is the best thing. You want to pick and choose, stuff your stats, and disappear and still get the awards? How does that work? Crazy.
multiple over the course of his career. If like,
no
knock on wood, I hope that, his injury, future is not consistent with what it's been, but, it's not under his control at all times. It's not under us as players, our control. So I feel like to take that away from him or other guys because of health, I feel like is incorrect. Because I feel like you're saying,
part of your job is to remain in shape and healthy. Come on. I can't keep listening, folks. I apologize. But let me know your thoughts. Am I too harsh or am I speaking the truth? Let me know what videos you would like me to do in the future. Definitely do that. Like, share, subscribe, stay tuned for more videos. God bless.